There are stories that don't begin the way you expect, and this is one of them. Because if you saw her today, calm, composed, successful, in control, you would never imagine the kind of life she once lived, or the quiet storm she had to walk through to become who she is now. Lana didn't grow up surrounded by cameras, luxury, or big city lights. Her world was much simpler, and in many ways, much more grounded. Picture wide open fields, long afternoons under the sun, and a life that moved slowly, almost peacefully. As a child, she spent her days running freely, helping with animals, and learning responsibility far earlier than most. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. And it shaped her in ways that would stay with her forever. There's something about growing up that way, it builds character. Not the kind people talk about, but the kind that quietly forms when no one is watching. Discipline, resilience, and a strong sense of duty became part of who she was before she even realized it. But what made her stand out wasn't just her upbringing. It was her mind. From a very young age, Lana showed something rare: clarity, focus, and intelligence beyond her years. She didn't just do well in school, she excelled. Honors, recognition, consistency, it all came naturally to her, but not because it was easy, because she was willing to work for it. And yet, life has a way of taking even the most structured paths, and turning them into something unexpected. At some point, the quiet rhythm of her early life began to shift. Opportunities appeared, different, unfamiliar, impossible to ignore. The kind of opportunities that don't come with instructions, only with consequences you understand much later. And that's where her story takes a turn. Stepping into a completely different world, Lana entered an industry that brought her something many people spend their entire lives chasing: visibility, recognition, and a level of success that grows faster than you can emotionally process. Almost overnight, everything changed. The attention, the expectations, the pressure to maintain an image that didn't always reflect who she truly was inside. From the outside, it looked like success. And in many ways, it was. But internally, things were more complicated. Because when your life moves faster than your identity, something eventually catches up. For Lana, that moment came quietly, but powerfully. It wasn't a single event. It was a realization. A growing feeling that something didn't align anymore. Regret is a strange emotion. It doesn't always arrive with noise. Sometimes it builds slowly, in silence, until one day, you can no longer ignore it. And alongside that, came something even heavier. Social pressure. Opinions. Judgments. Expectations from people who didn't truly know her, but felt entitled to define her. It began to affect her, not just professionally, but personally. Her peace, her sense of self, even the way she saw her own past. And then came the decision. Not an easy one. Walking away from something that brings success is one of the hardest things a person can do. Because from the outside, it never makes sense. People only see what you're leaving, not what it's costing you to stay. But she chose to leave. Not out of weakness, but out of clarity. And that choice changed everything. The transition wasn't instant. Reinventing yourself rarely is. There are doubts, adjustments, moments where you question if you made the right decision. But there's also something else, something stronger. Freedom. Little by little, Lana began to rebuild her life, this time, on her own terms. And what's fascinating is that she didn't abandon who she was, she returned to it. The discipline from her childhood, the intelligence she had always carried, the sense of structure and control, it all came back, but now with experience behind it. Instead of being defined by a single chapter of her life, she started creating something new. Business. Strategy. Long-term thinking. She proved something that many people underestimate, that success isn't about where you start, or even the path you take, but about what you do after you understand yourself. Today, Lana stands as someone completely different from the version the world once knew. Not because she erased her past, but because she learned from it. She manages her finances with precision. Every decision she makes reflects awareness, control, and a level of discipline that only comes from lived experience. This isn't accidental success, it's intentional. And perhaps what's most interesting is how she lives now. There's a calmness to it. She values routine, something many people overlook, but that often defines stability. Long walks in the afternoon, time with her pets, simple moments that don't need validation from anyone else. At home, she finds peace in things that are almost symbolic: cooking, baking, creating something with her own hands. It's not about the result, it's about the process. The control. The grounding. And then there's one detail that says more about her than most people realize. Her relationship with order. Cleanliness, structure, organization. It's not just a habit for her. It's something deeper. Almost an obsession, as she herself describes it. But in a way, it makes sense. When your life has gone through chaos, you learn to value control in the smallest things. And yet, despite everything she's left behind, her name continues to grow. Her popularity hasn't faded. If anything, it has evolved. Because people are no longer just curious about who she was, they're interested in who she became. And maybe that's the real story here. Not the rise. Not the controversy. But the transformation. Because at the end of the day, what makes a story powerful isn't perfection. It's change. It's the moment someone looks at their life and decides, this is not who I want to be anymore. And actually does something about it. So the question isn't whether Lana made mistakes. The question is, how many people have the strength to walk away from a version of themselves that no longer feels right? Not everyone gets that chance. And even fewer take it.